You know, there are some stories in history that don't feel like they belong in textbooks. They feel like something someone whispered once, and then everyone agreed not to talk about it again. And this is one of those stories. It's about a group of American soldiers during World War I who marched into a battlefield and were never officially found again. Not as prisoners, not as heroes, not even as casualties with clear records, just gone. And the strangest part? History itself seems confused about whether they ever existed the way people remember them. Let's go back to 1918. World War I is in its final stages. Europe is chaos. Front lines are shifting every week. Communication is unreliable. Entire units are being lost and found again in the confusion of war. In this environment, a U.S. Army battalion is deployed to France. Nothing unusual at first glance. American forces were being sent everywhere at that point. But this battalion was assigned a specific operation in a region that soldiers later described as visually wrong. Thick fog, constant rain, terrain that didn't match maps properly. Even the officers reportedly noted something strange in their field logs. Navigation was inconsistent. But war doesn't wait for perfect conditions. So the battalion moved forward. Their objective was simple on paper: secure a forward position through a narrow valley and establish communication lines on the other side. They were last seen entering that valley. And that's where history begins to fracture. Radio logs from nearby units confirmed that communication with the battalion was active, right up until they entered the valley. Then, suddenly, silence. No distress signal, no update, no retreat orders, just complete radio blackout. At first, commanders assumed it was equipment failure. That was normal in WWI. Equipment broke. Lines were cut. Operators died mid-transmission. But what happened next didn't fit any of those explanations. Within hours, nearby units attempted visual contact. Observers positioned on higher ground reported something unusual. They could see movement inside the valley, but couldn't clearly identify formations. One report mentions figures moving in coordinated patterns, but visibility was too poor to confirm identity. Another report claims they heard faint gunfire echoing, but it didn't match the direction of known enemy positions. Still, none of this was considered extraordinary enough to launch a full rescue immediately. Because in war, confusion is normal, or at least, that's what they thought. Days passed. Then something even more unsettling happened. The battalion was officially marked as temporarily unaccounted for. Not missing, not destroyed, just unconfirmed status. Search units were sent into the valley, but when they arrived, there was nothing. No bodies, no abandoned equipment in large numbers, no clear battlefield evidence of a major engagement. It was as if a full battalion had simply passed through the area and dissolved into the landscape. This is where the historical record starts getting uncomfortable, because when military archives were reviewed after the war, inconsistencies began to appear. One set of documents suggests the battalion never fully entered that valley and was rerouted. Another set clearly shows entry orders signed and confirmed. Even worse, some personnel logs list soldiers from that battalion as being reassigned to completely different units later in the war. But here's the problem. Survivor testimonies from adjacent units consistently mention seeing them go in. Multiple independent accounts. Same direction, same time frame, same disappearance. So now historians are stuck with a contradiction. Official records don't agree with human memory, and human memory doesn't agree with official records. One has to be wrong. But which one? Years later, investigators tried something more detailed. They traced individual soldiers from that battalion using military databases, and what they found made the case even stranger. Some soldiers had duplicate service records, same name, same rank, but appearing in different locations during overlapping timelines. In simple terms, it looked like they existed in more than one place at once. Now, most historians dismiss this as clerical errors. And to be fair, wartime record-keeping was messy. But the scale of these inconsistencies was unusual. It wasn't just one or two names. It was enough to raise questions about whether the entire unit had been properly tracked at all. Then came the most disturbing part of the investigation. No confirmed mass casualty site was ever found. No burial records matching the battalion. No battlefield recovery operation that identified them as a group. In a war where almost everything was documented, even partial losses, this absence stood out. It wasn't just missing soldiers. It was missing evidence of what happened to them. And that's where theories begin. Some believe the battalion was completely wiped out in a poorly documented engagement, and records simply failed to capture it. Others suggest they were dispersed into smaller units and their identity was lost in administrative chaos. But there is another theory, one that exists more in fringe discussions than official history. It suggests something happened in that valley that affected communication and perception itself. Because multiple units reported compass anomalies in that exact region during the same period. Navigation tools behaving incorrectly. Distances feeling distorted. Visibility not matching terrain maps. Now, none of this proves anything unusual happened, but it does create a pattern of inconsistencies that are hard to ignore. Because even if the battalion was destroyed, there should still be a trace. Some record, some physical confirmation, something. But instead, there is only absence. Today, over 100 years later, that battalion remains listed in military archives under a very strange category: unaccounted for operational outcome. Not officially declared missing in action in a traditional sense. Not confirmed casualties with full documentation. Just unresolved. A historical blank space where a full unit once existed. And maybe that's why this story still gets attention. Not because it suggests something supernatural or impossible, but because it exposes something more uncomfortable. That even in modern, structured systems like the military, entire groups of people can sometimes slip through the cracks of history. So the question remains, what really happened in that fog-covered valley in 1918? Did they simply vanish in the chaos of war, with records failing to keep up? Or is there something about that moment in time that was never properly understood in the first place? Because one thing is certain, a battalion marched in, and history never clearly recorded them coming back out. And that is where the mystery still lives.